Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How is everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Am I the only one suffering from allergies, or anybody else here?
No.
Oh, great, great. I see a few hands. That's wonderful. So, guess what? Since I'm having some allergies, I'm not going to be the person speaking only. So I want you to interact with me during this presentation. All right, everybody's up for it?
Yes.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. You know what? I love morning presentations. Because if you guys go to sleep after my presentation, ask Sherry to get you stronger coffee next time. That's it. All right, so I'm here to talk about, we had the morning session and we talked about patient-centric approach and what you should do as a high-performing team. But let's talk about operations and marketing now. How many people are in operations here? Great, great. And anybody from marketing? Anybody who's done both? These are the people, the most coveted people in the medical field who have done it all. So, what are typically the top operations goals? Anybody? Don't look at there. Tell me, what do you think? In your day-to-day operations, what are your top goals? Increase efficiencies, please, louder.
Increase efficiency.
Great. Okay. Who else? Anybody? Anybody here? Growth. What about improving the quality, lowering the cost? Right? And what about patient satisfaction? Right? Isn't that critical?
Yes.
We talk about patient-centric approach, and how can not be the patient satisfaction be one of the primary indicators of a high operational efficiency? All right, people in marketing now. I'm not going to go to the next slide because I think everybody starts looking at the slide. What are the top marketing goals? All right, Sherry, you're up.
I'm going to say new referral sources.
New referral sources, that's great, wonderful. All right, who else? Increasing awareness, that's great. Anybody? Come on, the people in the back. Branding. I'm going to touch that, that's great. Thank you.
Feedback on your practice.
Feedback on your practice. Oh, wonderful. That's a function of marketing. I love that. Great. Increasing patients, increasing the market share, and brand awareness. Right? So what does brand mean to you? What is a brand? What does a brand mean to you when you look at a brand? Say Nike, McDonald's.
Quality, market saturation, demand,
Quality, demand, saturation. It also tells you what to expect when you see that. A level of service, a level of expectation. Right? How many people go to Walmart for buying diamonds? But that's their thing, right? I mean, they are a low-cost brand. People go there for the lowest cost, right? Okay, so we as marketers, for the last, 80 years, we have been taking people away from people and taking them to a logo. Because my logo is my brand, or the slogan is the brand, correct? We've done that, right? We've done that in people's mind. So now when you see a logo, you associate that to, this is the kind of service I can expect. This is what I'm going to get, right? But guess what? Now we are in a social world. And what does that mean? Brands are conversations. You are what your patients feel and talk about you. Can you control that? Go ahead, yes, sort of. Let's hear it. How can you control that? You have to use the mic for that.
Providing a good experience, they'll have something nice to say.
Great. Anybody else?
I think if you have a little troll that comes along and says something horrible about you, that's really hard to control. But if you have true feedback that's a negative, I think it's so important that you respond back. And you respond back with how you're going to make it right.
Great. Feedback. That's the best thing that we can get from our patients. Correct? Never try to do that with your wife. I tried that once and it doesn't work. But let's talk about branding. There are different aspects of a brand. And if you look at it, is the visual look and feel, right? That's part of your brand. Your colors that you choose, your logo. Then there is a corporate strategy, as we talked about earlier today, about having a mission, vision, and values. And why it is crucial for practices to have that ingrained in every employee, because they need to know, why are we doing this today? How do we connect our purpose to the higher purpose of the organization? For example, we were working with an urgent care, targeting kids in Houston. And their mission was to take care of kids anytime they were sick. Great. I said, yes, that's great. That's a great mission to have. But what's the bigger purpose? If you can connect to a bigger purpose than just your mission statement, and the bigger purpose was to have moms be happy that their kids are going to be taken care of at this urgent care. So we are making the world a happier place because 90% of their kids were coming with their moms. So they started using that in their practice. That's our purpose. That's the real purpose of having these urgent cares. And guess what? The employees could connect with it. Because everybody has a mom, everybody has gone through sickness. Right? That's my mission, vision, values. And the next step in the process is what? Is the goals and objectives. What is the goal? Believe it or not, people are tuned to reach goals. If I set a goal for you, you will do what it takes to reach that goal. But if the goal is not clear, what's going to happen? Come on, anybody, if the goals are not clear to you, you don't know where you're aiming for. Right? So it's the purpose of the leadership to set those goals. Communicate. When we talk about communication, what does it start with? When I want to communicate with you, Mark, what should I start with? Introducing myself. Great. Next. Wonderful. So I introduce myself, talk about myself, but the real power in communication is the listening. Not only listen to your patients, but listen to your employees. Listen to what they have to say, because they can provide you insights of efficiencies that you cannot look at it yourself. So it always starts by listening. And the difference between listening and hearing, again, my wife tells me that, is that when you listen, you make a change. Right? When you are hearing, you just hear it from one side and take it out from the other. And how do you do active listening? So when I started my career, my boss told me, there's a difference between listening and active listening. And he told me very simply, and I have remembered it since then. It's been quite a while. But he told me the difference between listening and active listening is that you really understand what you have listened to. And how do you do that? I'll tell you a secret today. He told me, listen very carefully and then repeat what you have understood to that person. If you can repeat and the person says yes, you have been active listening. Has anybody ever done that? Active listening? Right? We all want to talk. And we always feel communication is all about talking. Right? The person who talks the most wins. Well, actually, that person loses the most. So I think that's very crucial when you talk about taking feedback. Then, of course, what are your differentiators? As part of positioning your brand, you need to know what are your differentiators. What makes you unique as compared to your competitors? Is it your physicians? Is it your customer service? Is it the locations? Is it your purpose? Is it your operational efficiencies? I can take a patient in and out in less than 30 minutes. What is it? You need to know those differentiators at every level of the organization. And last but not the least, your brand identity. That means As I mentioned, employee experience, customer experience, your stakeholders, everybody is a crucial part of your brand experience. And it starts from you, right? The first finger that you can always point out is at yourself. What can I do to make a difference? Now, there is an onus on the management to communicate the vision, the goals, the values, but finally it's up to you to imbibe them and use them in your day-to-day lives. We talked about leadership and management, and the single thing that we can implement in our medical practice is floor leadership. That means everybody's allowed to speak openly and freely and listen to their voice, and we'll talk about it a little bit. But say you have 50 issues to resolve. I guarantee you that any medical practice, if you listen to your employees, there'll be a list of 50 issues. You need to fix this, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, right? So how do you know what to start with? So then you actually combine their voice and see what are the top 1 or 2 issues that you resolve that can impact 80% of the efficiency. Right? It's only the 1 or 2 things that can make a difference. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Finally, when it comes down to it. Alright, so we got branding, right? So why brand perception is crucial? Because when people look at your brand or talk to your people, they will start making a perception about it. This is what my experience is going to be at Embassy Suites or Ritz-Carlton, right? Now let's talk about marketing excellence. What makes a marketing organization excellent? And we'll talk about it, but right? Marketing people are always different than the operations people, right? And you wish there were more synergies between them. Right? So here is some synergies that we can see from marketing. You got to have the right strategy for the organization. Then you create the right guidance. What are the key messages that we're going to give it to our target audiences? How do we position our brand? Then the next is the process. What are the 3 main processes for any medical practice? Is incoming patients, patients leaving us, and patient experience when they come into the practice. 3 main. I mean, there are many more processes, but at a very high level, if you look at efficient, if you can make your intake, disenrollment process efficient, it'll be much easier for them to come in and not leave you as much. And if you make their operations process smooth of when they come in to meet with your practice, you'll be amazed. So if you look at 3 main processes, and I know clinical processes, there are so many of them, but I'm just giving you a very high level that even in marketing, you need to have a process. And last but not the least, when you have a process in place, how do you measure your success? How do you know that you're successful? Right? Metrics are important, right? Who doesn't like metrics? But how do you define the metrics? It's all based on your strategy and the guidance. For example, if your goal is to get 10x patients or 100,000 patients or whatever in 1 year, or 50 new patients or 500 new patients, then what are the things that we have implemented to get those patients? And make sure that they have the best experience when they talk to our practice. Alright, so that's marketing, right? So they always want to do the big thing and talk everything great about the company. Now the second thing is operational people. When it comes down to it and they say, you know what? Oh my God, I don't think so we can handle 500 new patients, We will crumble. So what do? If you look at 3 main pieces of operational efficiency, is clinical standardization. And what that means is that we have a standard process when the patient comes in and out, in and out. As we move to more patient-centric approach, so then the confusion starts with physicians because they will say, I need to spend 30 minutes with this patient and 15 minutes with that patient, but 45 minutes with this patient because I'm patient-centric. But if you create a standardization and say, on an average, per patient, physician can spend this much amount of time, and then their RNs and MAs can go to them and say, doctor, the next patient is waiting or something like that, but we have a standard defined process that we're going to spend 15 minutes per patient or 20 minutes per patient, then it helps overall efficiencies of the organization. Lean operations. Anybody heard of Six Sigma lean operations here? All right, so let's talk about it. What have you heard? Go ahead.
Just from my long ago days, what's called quality improvement, then it's just that by making your processes lean, they can be more efficient and better satisfied.
Oh yeah, great. Yes, how about you?
I would say it helps with leadership. Getting the organization right.
Great. Anybody else with Six Sigma here? Okay, so Six Sigma was devised with keeping in mind of total quality management. And what that means is that when you look at any intake or outtake process outside of medical field, it is used everywhere, in manufacturing especially. How can we ensure that the time that we start the process to the end of the process, there is no non-value added step? It's as simple as that. If it doesn't add value to the patient, should we be doing it or not? And if it doesn't add value, but we still have to do it because of compliance, how can we streamline it so it doesn't take as much time? If you can ask those two, if you can just answer those two questions, that's Six Sigma for you right there, in a nutshell. And then not only that, but also Six Sigma applies to how do you place everything, your pods. How the physicians can be in different pods, location, in and out, the patient can be quick. And the last but not the least is supply utilization. Not overstocking, not understocking either. Just in time supply management. Anybody heard that? Just in time. So this is what will create operational efficiency for organization. Just look at these three wheels. But of course, there are differences between marketing and operations, right? Marketing guy will always say for each patient, based on their psychographics, demographics, and blah, 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 they need to have their own experience, right? And what does the operational people do? How can we do that? I mean, that's not possible. So we need standardization. This is what's going to take for a patient in and out. The second is marketing people. We always overestimate, right? And we have to. That's part of our job, right? To big rah-rah and we can do this and we can do that and blah, right? But actually, operation people always underestimate. And why is that? Why is that? Why people underestimate in operations? Anybody?
Control expense.
Control expenses. Because finally they want to maintain quality with lower cost. And marketing is forced to look at increasing sales. And anybody who looks at marketing, they will always say, marketing is the biggest expense. And I don't know what they do. But I can tell you one thing. In this world, you cannot escape debt, taxes, or marketing. So it is there. If you're not marketing, then your competitors are. So it is the Game of Thrones battle between operations and marketing all the time. Have you ever faced it in your organizations, marketing and operations?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been in those meetings too, yeah. They're great. But we are moving towards a patient-centric approach. So if we are moving towards patient-centric approach, and let me ask you, how many of you can say that we are not patient-centric today? Nobody would say that. But are we following the patient-centric approach or not? Is a bigger question. So what are we following now? What do you think we are following now? If it is not patient-centric approach, which approach are we following? Anybody? There has to be it's centered on something besides money. What is that?
Regulations.
Regulations and physician-centric approach.
Thank you. I was afraid to say that.
Yeah, but that's true. That's the way it is. But as we move towards patient-centric approach, we would see that all these operations, admin, marketing have to align. Why? Because from the time you inherit the branding message, to the time you have the first interaction and to the time you get the billing, and you refer your friends and family to that practice, everything is going to be around you. So one simple thing that I'm just going to give it out there, just one simple thing that every practice can do when they go back to their marketing is create target demographics or profiles of people that they are targeting. It won't be 100%. You cannot say, you cannot customize it to 100%, but you can say 80% of my patient profile looks like this. Just look at that. And then you go after that profile versus trying to go after every patient that comes into the practice. So how do you go from physician-centric to patient-centric approach? You listen to the physicians, you got to listen to the patients now. And marketing and operations synergies will make 1 and 1 not 2, but 3. So once we get the synergies between marketing and operations, it's a new word that I came up with. Patientization. It's not customization, it's not standardization, but what does the patient want? And then it's 80-20 rule. It's 80% of my patients want this. I'm not going to go after the 100%. You just can't. Anybody can tell you that if you make 100% of your patients happy, you're going to be very unhappy. So you got to have the right balance. And then not underestimating or overestimating, but giving the right estimate according to what the patients we are targeting. Increase sales, but keep operational efficiencies in mind. Can we handle 500 new patients? What would it take to make that happen? Alright, so patient-centric approach, listen to the patient, the voice of the patient. Consolidate it. As I mentioned that, if you have 100 patients and every person is telling you a different story, how can you say, 50% of my patients are complaining about this, or 25% of my patients are complaining about this aspect for this location. And if I fix that, guess what? I will have less disenrollment. Is it more expensive to get a new patient or to retain your existing patients? What's more expensive? To get a new patient, of course. So why not keep them by just listening to them? And then share the voice of that patient with the entire medical practice. It's not just marketing, it's not just admin, but the whole practice needs to know what are patients talking about. What are their concerns? What are they looking for? Anybody does market research with their target patients in their practices? Great. So yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Awesome. So what does market research tell you? It tells you what are the demographics, how do you approach them, what they like, what they don't like, what is the channel of communication, and which marketing is going to be the most effective with your target audiences. And then operational efficiency. So I can tell you a real example in which one of the practices we were working with, they started using surveys, listened to the voice of the patient, and they just made one small their approach. And that helped them 2 FTEs in 9 months after they launched. 2 FTEs. Isn't that a big expense in organizations? Does not mean they got rid of people. Let me put it that way. But they were able to take in more patients with the same set of people. That's what efficiency means. A lot of people confuse efficiency means, oh, you know what? I won't have a job tomorrow. No, it's not like that. But can you do more with what you have? So, it could be a simple 1-question survey. Asking the patient, how was my service today? Simple question. And the patient will tell you, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like. Or it could be based on, the CG-CAP standard of the receptionist was courteous, my doctor's appointment was within reasonable time, the staff informed me of any delays in clinic today. So you can get into more depth of where the real issue lies. And finally, it tells you the net promoter. Anybody heard of NPS, Net Promoter Score? So finally, it tells you, the score tells you what is the probability of your existing patients giving you more business through referrals, promoting your business. If we start thinking like every patient in our practice can be a marketing person, why? Because they can refer more business to you. Then you won't need people like us. But then you consolidate and see what are the top 3 strongly agree, what they really love about your practice, that's crucial too, because that's your differentiator, and what they don't like about the practice, so you can take action to improve it. Alright. As I mentioned, 3 takeaways from this presentation. You can't escape death, taxes, or marketing, yes. I love it. I want to hear from people because I think I'll still be in job. But marketing and operations are 2 sides of the same coin. Marketing working in a silo, operations working in a silo, it's not going to help the patient. And if you move towards a patient-centric approach, you've got to be synergizing your efforts. And start by listening to the voice of your patients. That's the starting point. Do we have that in place? To listen. That's all that I have, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
You want to tell a story?
Oh, yeah. So, typically what happens in operations and marketing, people they underestimate the value of branding. Right? Anybody in finance here? Okay, finance. Great. Why don't I ask you that I want $25,000 for branding for the practice?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to convince finance people about branding because they think it's a sheer waste of time and money and expenses. But I've shown it to you that if you look at the branding, the value proposition, and the market segmentation that we are targeting, it can have a tremendous impact in the long run for the practice. There is no immediate ROI for branding because more of a perception of when you look at that logo and meet those people with that t-shirt who has that logo, what is your perception? Should I go to them? Should I not go to them? Are they going to take care of me? Are they not going to listen to me? That's why branding is very crucial. The first step in marketing is to talk about your brand and creating a value proposition. So if I were to ask you, okay, why don't I have someone here? I haven't talked there at all. Okay, so. All right, sir. What's your name? Thank you, Marty. All right, Marty, tell me, in your practice, what is your value proposition? How you are different from your competitors?
How am I different from my competitors?
Yes. Who are your competitors and how you're different?
I'm never really different. Oh, maybe my staff members can help me with it. Maybe
All right.
What was the question?
Marty, tell him the question.
How are our competitors different from us?
How are we different from our competitors?
How are we different from our competitors? We try to make the experience for the patient, first time experience. What I mean by that is, every time somebody walks through the door, we figure out how can we keep it. So, not more of a family atmosphere, so the culture.
Great. All right. Can we have a round of applause for the gentleman here? Okay, now let's talk to his competitor. Any competitors of community therapy or something?
Probably quite a few.
Quite a few. So the thing is that culture, right? How do you develop culture?
Hard work.
Hard work.
Every day.
Every day. But the culture is developed by the fact of your mission, how well it's communicated to everybody in the organization, and how they finally respond to you. Right? So patient satisfaction is the most crucial aspect for operations. And listening to the voice of the patient is going to be very crucial too. But I'll tell you, Typically, all medical practices fall into the same prey of like, I don't know what my differentiators are except for my culture, but no practice will ever tell you that we don't take care of our patients. Everybody will say that we are patient-centric, we take care of patients, but actually, when you start listening to the patient, they will tell you whether it's true or not. So the real judge of your practice is from your patients.
Mr. Tejwani, I have a question just to see if you can clear it up in my mind. Because of marketing and the brand recognition.
So what we have at CommuniCare is we have these billboards. And I don't know how to measure the metrics on that. You mentioned process metrics. How do you measure if all of the money that's being invested on brand recognition is worth it? Is it worth it? Is it something that's...
What's your name, ma'am? Carol, thank you so much. That's a great question. Anybody has faced the same question in marketing metrics?
You could stick that item on your next survey and ask, how did you first find out about us?
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
So when a patient, if the patient's scheduling, have your staff ask them how they heard about us, or who referred you, or that, and tally it up, keep track of it, and report on it monthly.
Now that's different though from, I was trying to focus on brand recognition. That's different from brand recognition. Is it, or am I, is it?
Right. And I'll talk about it. I just wanted to hear what people have to say, and then I'll tell you my take on it. Anybody else who want to answer this?
I think you get part of that through focus groups.
Focus group. That's great. That's all great feedback. So let me talk about branding in general. It's the most abstract thing to measure. So you just forget about measuring branding at all. But what you can measure, there is a marketing attribution model that is created, which attributes different marketing mixes that you do. For example, billboards, television, radio, magazines, your website, social media. They attribute different, like 5% will go to overall branding. Means, if you're getting a patient, and the patient will never say that, if human psyche was that simple, we wouldn't need marketing. So let's put it that way. It takes about 15 impressions for a brand, 15 minimum impressions on a human mind to start recognizing that brand.
So the more you see it,
the more likely it is that they will remember it. But there is no direct correlation between a billboard or a TV ad to a patient walking in and remembering it. To say, I saw that billboard 5 weeks back, but today I'm sick. So guess what? But I saw something on the internet. So guess what? The internet is the king then. Because we saw it on the internet and scheduled an appointment. But they saw your branding 5 weeks back on billboards. Now, one quick way to measure that of traditional marketing would be to have a clear call to action for the billboard. So go to a particular location, right? Or have a link that takes them to a particular page on your website. And see if they remember that link. So communicare.com/ABC or seniorcare/childcare. But billboards have to be very specific for that, right? That's one way to do it. But typically you do attribution models. You attribute 5% to overall awareness campaigns, then the conversion campaigns, and then finally when you're consolidating all the conversions into leads and the revenue, you have to see the ROI of all your channels. The most expensive channels are the most difficult to measure. That's the beauty of marketing. The most expensive channel is the most difficult to measure. And we always measure what we can measure, right? Which is website hits, patients converting, calling us, contact forms. But your direct mailers or your e-newsletters that you send out, or the billboards, or the TV that you did, or a radio spot that you did, right, has an impact in overall awareness. So what typically I would say at the end of it would be, you do that to start with, but then reduce one channel at a time. So say, you know what, I'm going to reduce this billboard. Does it really impact my overall patient satisfaction the way I'm getting from this location? Right? But when you reduce that, increase something else so you know what's working for you. Right? Because finally the finance people will give us only so much money, right? So you have to slice and dice, and marketing is art and a science. The art is in the messaging, and the science is in measuring. It's as simple as that. So once you do a combination of both and start producing something and start adding something else, you would know what channels are really working effectively. We did that with magazines and billboards, slowly and gradually for a practice, and they found some billboards were working for them, but it takes about 3 to 6 months because it's cyclical. But we were able to find some, out of the 10 magazines, the 3 magazines gave them 80% of the patients. Target audience and what they're using, right? That's the starting point. And then the second aspect of that marketing would be what channels to use, right? Because they might be on social media, they might be on mobile, right? But they might be on internet, website, right? So which channels are going to be most effective? So it's test and learn also. Marketing is test and learn, but budgets don't really matter. You can start with $100 and you can do for $25,000 as long as you can show the ROI. You start small because you want to show the return on your investment. If you can show that for every $100 you're spending, you're getting even one new patient, I'm just saying, for example. Say $1,000 you're spending on a new patient, look at the patient lifetime value. Don't look at the first interaction that you have with the patient, but typically on an average, my patient stays with me for 5 years. An average revenue per year is this much from each patient, typically. And then, based on that, if I get a new patient, the lifetime value is this much. So for each lifetime value that I'm getting, I'm spending this much. And for each channel, right, after some time, each channel will give you diminishing returns. What that means is that every extra dollar you spend on it won't give you $3 back. It might give you $1 back. So at that point, you change your marketing mix and use a different channel. And learn and adapt yourself. And see what channel is working now. If this is not working, what next can we do? And guess what? If you're listening to the voice of your patients, they will tell you what they are planning to do in the next 12 months, even. And social media is changing so dramatically that no one channel can be, except for maybe Facebook, no one channel is really permanent. And Snapchat is coming up for a younger generation, for that matter. Right? So there's a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, I have 2 girls and I worry about that, those kind of channels, yeah. But we have to, as marketers, understand those aspects of marketing too, that at some point, every channel, whether it's TV, radio, magazines, internet, digital, social, mobile, there'll be diminishing returns. So we have to keep changing and adapting ourselves to the target demographics. Great. Yes, ma'am. Physician referrals are great. Of course. Who wouldn't want a physician referral? Of course, we all do. Absolutely. That's a great point. Wonderful. Anyone else?
You know, I've read a study, this is way back from social media, where there was, you have a billboard, and you have high traffic areas, and you have radio at the same time. There's a survey done by this particular company that had the billboard and that particular advertisement on that radio station, or several radio stations. I mean, the patients could have sworn they had seen it on TV because it was both audio and visual. They had seen the billboard and they were hearing it on the radio at the same time. High traffic areas.
Yes. And even the search volume goes up when people are seeing TV. There's a direct correlation on increase in search volume for those keywords that you're showing TV ads on. So, are you showing up at the top when they're searching for the same keywords? So it becomes crucial as well at that point to make it more effective. Right? Finally, is it worth investing in that channel or not? You have to ask that question to yourself because finance will give us only so much money. $100, not $25. $100. All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for interacting with me. I really appreciate it.